Hello, hello, guys. It's good to see everybody. Happy New Year. We're gonna, scary, isn't it? I'll try to back up. So you're not looking at me quite so close. Mindy likes it once in a while when I go live. I'm like, that's a scary thing. And of course, our video is such clear, resolution. But welcome to the new year 2021. And obviously, we're going to talk. There we go. You got it? Okay. So, welcome to 2021. We are going to talk for the next 40 to 45 minutes. I just thought I would do an update on the world and kind of what we're looking at, and hopefully giving you guys some idea of some longer term timing. So, without further ado, we'll get me off the big screen. Which gross. I like me small better. I know charts don't mean anything, but I like the charts. So Mindy's picking up people that come in, and I'm going to pull this over as far as I can. And if you've got any questions, Mindy, you'll have to speak them up. So what we're looking at, this is today. We always start on, it's January 14th, 2021. And we had, actually 2 nights ago, we had a new moon. We have a new moon and a full moon every month. That's not news to anybody. You can look at your calendar and see that, But we did have a new moon on the 13th, actually Tuesday night at midnight, but at 23 Capricorn. But Pluto, the planet of intensity, was right with it. So P stands for Pluto, and Pluto is intensity. So what that does is sets the stage for the next month, from new moon to the next new moon, for intensity. So right off the bat, now, those of you who are in class or have been in class know that we always start with current transits, and we look at the lunations for every month because it sets the tone of energy for that period of time. That's just the way it is. So the new moon, a day and a half ago, did involve Pluto. So that means from January 13th to February 12th or 13th, whenever exactly the next new moon is, it'll be at 23 Aquarius, the next sign. During that period of time, Pluto is going to be very active because Pluto was sucked up in this vacuum cleaner, and here's the new moon, and there sits Pluto. So Pluto's like, woo, I get to play. I'm with the sun, and the sun is our vital energy for this solar system. So whenever there's a planet sucked up with the lunation, it's going to be a big player. So we can expect some Pluto things. Well, what does that mean? Pluto is intensity. Pluto is drive. Now, in the old days, Pluto was death, sex, and transformation. Those were the definitions, and taxes, yes. All the lovely things in life. But Pluto is also power, and Pluto is very intense, and it's our most outer planet. And it moves only 248 years it takes to go around the zodiac, so it's only two degrees a year. So Pluto's sitting, and it was Pluto with Jupiter and Saturn that created the COVID group we've been talking about. I called it the COVID party. They're starting to spread out now. Thank you, God. Which makes me think that COVID is going to begin to spread itself. Now, it's going to take a while. It's not going to happen overnight. But I think we've hit the peak. Now. I think they're going to begin to separate. You can see them beginning to separate here. You don't know. Some of you don't know the difference in the planets. You just have to trust me. But scary. But you're on here, so what choice do you have? Obviously, I'm the only game talking about this right now, so here we go. Here's today. And of course, the sun has moved now past it to 25. So it's already past Pluto. And these things are, the moon's clicking on. We've already had our new moon. We're into a new moon phase. Look at that. And the moon's moving out. And so that's good. You're like, well, things are calming down here. I wanted to go back. Well, first of all, let me tell you overall. Obviously, the Pluto Pluto, Saturn, Jupiter conjunction has set up a very intense and deep and traumatic social change. Who is that, Mindy? Oh, that's fine. So Pluto, Saturn, and Jupiter have set Pluto, Saturn, and Jupiter have set up this. They're in Capricorn. Capricorn rules tradition, old rules, old boundaries, old structures. And that's where, at the very end of the sign, this whole energy pattern is building. So now, if you'll notice, Jupiter has a 12-year orbit, Saturn has a 29-year orbit, and Pluto has a 248-year orbit. I'm glad to tell you that Saturn and Jupiter have passed Pluto, and they're moving on. And Jupiter, the fastest moving, has cleared Saturn now. It was on December 21st that Jupiter and Saturn made their great conjunction, 20-year conjunction, on December 21st. They're still very close together. And obviously, we are seeing a lot of trauma and a lot of intensity, and it has not passed. And people are like, I thought you said that when we got to January. I said, well, I didn't say we were going to fall off this is not a flat earth. We're not going to fall off, It's going to slowly, hopefully, blend. But so there's a lot of things we can talk about here, but I want to go back to the Capitol event on January 6th, which I think caught the country by surprise, certainly did me. I wasn't watching the news, nor do I normally. If any of you know me, I don't do it. I personally can't make an impact on that, and I don't want to listen to it, so I don't. But when there's a major event, sometimes people tell me. So one of my clients came in on Thursday morning and said, what did you think of what happened at the Capitol? I said, what happened at the Capitol? She said, you don't know? I said, no. Oh, my. And so she went into this story, and she said, I thought about you because this woman's a doctor. I mean, she's pretty on it. She's pretty scholarly. In fact, she's even thinking of studying astrology. So she's been watching trying to read a little bit. She said, I wondered what you would say. It started about 3:00 yesterday, and right around 5:30, the whole thing stopped. They brought in the guard, and it had been so intense, and it was over. And I wondered what was going on astrologically. And I said, I have no idea because I wasn't looking. So, of course, then I had to go look. So I struck the chart for January 6th, 2021, Washington, D.C. Now, this is the planet Mars. Now, those of you who in high school or college did any mythology, or God forbid anybody study any planets, but some of you did study Latin or Greek or something, and you knew about the mythology of the gods and goddesses. And Mars was a very powerful god. He was the god of war. He was a god of fire. He was a god of leading. He was first out. So he had the fire chariot, and he went first, and everybody came behind him. So that was Mars's mark. He was the fire god, the warrior. Mars was given rulership at 500 BC by Pythagoras, if you go back that far, if you remember. Mars was given rulership over the sign of Aries. There are 12 signs, there are 10 planets, and every sign has a planet that rules it. Mars is supposed to rule Aries. So Mars has a 2-year orbit. Let's do the math. And there are 12 signs. Normally, if you divide 12 into 24, 2 years, you get Mars in a sign about every 2 months. That's the average. So you don't get too upset about Mars. It ain't going to be there that long. Mars comes in and initiates, it gets things started, it builds the fire, and it leaves, It depends on the rest of them to carry on or not. Well, Mars hit Aries in July, came back into Aries, which is its own sign. So a planet is strongest when it hits its own sign. So Mars became very strong starting in July. And this energy and this urge to take charge and fight and this fiery spirit was energized starting in mid-July. Mars normally is in a sign, remember, 2 months. Well, on January 6th, almost 7 months later. 6 months and 3 weeks. Here is where Mars was on the day that they stormed the Capitol. 29, now let's do the math. There are 30 degrees in a sign and 60 minutes to a degree. Mars was at 29 degrees of Aries, 59 minutes, 0.9 at 5:26. And if I go up here and I move it to 1 minute, I'm going to move it forward 1 minute in time. Bingo, at 5:27, Mars, after 7 months, left Aries and went into Taurus. Now, Aries is a fire sign. There are 4 elements: fire, earth, air, and water. And the fire signs are fiery. You ever seen a fire still? Ever seen a fire be totally still? You can't. It's a constant movement. That's what keeps fire going. So it went into Earth. Earth is grounded and solid. So here's the fire planet hitting Earth. And it just stopped it. Just stopped the flame. Bingo. I thought it was fascinating. Like I said, I wasn't watching. I wasn't expecting. There it was. So we were watching, if you observed. Yes, Mike.
Mars was coming across the ascendant.
Mars was coming across the ascendant then. Interesting. So Margaret, one of the students in the room actually, did the chart for when they started the rally, when they started the march, and Mars was right here on the ascendant. When a planet is dominant on the ascendant, and Mars is here, it would be very prominent. Mars on any planet on an angle is very, very strong. So Mars was on the ascendant when they started, and Mars, when it stopped, basically was when Mars went into the sign of Taurus, a different sign. Now, if you were watching astrology, you might be standing back observing, I wonder what's going to happen. But it happened anyway. I'm off doing something else. I'm not paying attention. I go back, but it's still going on. So do we have to be aware of what's going on for it to happen? No. You see, the law of electricity and the law of gravity and the law of systems all work whether you're conscious of them or not. And the important thing about that is that we're watching. This is divine timing. And so if we can adapt and learn from and use and manage the energy, we can have a better outcome. So that's really what the talk is tonight. How can we have a better outcome from this warring? Now, you'll notice that Mars moved into the next sign. What are you asking me? It goes.
2 years ago.
Oh, it was there 2 years ago, but it hadn't been in Aries for 7 months. It hadn't been retrograde for 7 months. It just went through Aries in its normal 2-month pattern and rolled on. But Mars has been spinning like a spinning lawnmower for 7 months in the same spot, which happened to be its power spot. So, you gas it up and rev up your engines enough, you're going to get a big hit. And we did. You'll notice now Uranus only moves 4 degrees for a whole year. Mars moves a half a degree a day. Okay. Obviously, Mars is what we call applying to the planet Uranus. Uranus is the planet of change. So let me go over here to a PowerPoint that I put up. The transits for this year. Tried to write on here. My handwriting is pretty bad. Here is let me blow this up. It is with the pen that I had. Here's the inauguration. Now, the reason I'm going, because today's the 13th, 14th, and the inauguration is on the 20th. And we saw that Mars, just entering Taurus, Mars will exactly conjunct the planet of chaos, breaking loose, change, and rebellion on the day of the election. Inauguration. It's within 4 minutes at noon now. Then, yeah, the moon is, we'll talk about that in a minute. The moon is void, of course, it is. It's very interesting. The moon is on the 29th degree, so it's not making aspects to anything else, which tends to make it pretty rebellious. And it's not being controlled or hemmed in by anything else. It's running wild. Mars-Uranus tends to be, in astrology, the indicator of accidents, of spontaneous combustion, of fighting. So I'm like, okay, yippee. Now, this is the day of the inauguration. The good news is the ascendant has come down here and hit. I don't know if I can show you. I don't know if it means anything to you. Oh, I don't have the inauguration in here. Stay with me. If I were to back up the time 2 hours, it would go back to 14 Aries. So the ascendant would be back in Aries and it would be coming over this. What am I saying? I'm saying that between 10 and 12, if we're going to get any real problems, it's going to be between 10 a.m. and 12 when Mars-Uranus go over the ascendant of this chart. Not only are they conjunct, they are squaring Jupiter-Saturn, which is the world and the ruler of the country. The moon moves very quickly. The moon goes around every month. The moon's at 29 degrees of Aries. We are back to the warrior. We're back to the warrior. So astrologers are saying that this is not going to go as smoothly and as nicely as normally. Obviously, there's going to be some unrest. Obviously, the world is expecting some chaos and fighting. So my suggestion, and why I'm bothering to do this, because the energy is what it is that we can, as individuals, make choices. Please try not to be part of the problem. Don't try to, aggravate or get involved in or participate in negative conversations. Don't encourage people to get more upset. Everybody has an opinion, and they have a right to that opinion. However, if we can be kind, if we can just be kind and allow each person to have their space to believe what they believe and not tell anybody that they shouldn't believe what they believe on either side of the aisle. Because if not, it's not just at the White House, it's not at the Capitol that we're going to see fighting. You're going to see people fighting. You're going to see families fighting. You're going to see friends getting into, because Mars-Uranus is a conflicting energy. Mars is the fighter. The moon is there. So there's lots of Martian fighting energy that's present. So there's an inauguration every 4 years, and it's always on January 20th, and it's always at noon. Now, this is interesting because one of the other students was here last night and said to me, have they always had the inauguration on January 20th? And I said, I don't know. I'm not a history buff. That clear. So she started Googling. And so Bruce is saying 1937. Thanks, Bruce. I couldn't remember the date. In 1937, it had been set on March 4th. And then, because they decided it was too long, it was a lame duck president, way too long, and nothing was happening, that they moved it up. And so they moved it up to January. But I find it very, very interesting that they moved it up to the day that the sun always is leaving Capricorn, going into Aquarius. So the sun is always at 0 Aquarius on January 20th, which is a new beginning. So we will survive this and we will get through it. But do I expect there to be? Now, if you're getting all twittered about the Mars-Uranus, you might, there with the Capitol event, here's today. Today, Mars is at 3, Uranus is at 6. Remember, Mars is moving a lot faster. And because by the 20th, Mars will be right at 6 with Uranus. Uranus won't have gone anywhere and Mars will have caught it. Once Mars clears Uranus, Mars works ahead of itself, just like a siren, just like a gun. They shoot forward. Once Mars passes the planet, Mars's energy is gone. So once we get past that, it'll die down. Because that's the way Mars works. That's the way that energy works. We just have to get there. So what am I? I'm saying between now and the 20th is what I'm worried about. So I beg you, huh? We will later in class. What day is it? Monday? It's on the 21st or tomorrow?
No, it's Monday.
It's Monday. They're asking if we can look at Martin. I'll look at Martin Luther King Day when we get to class. But for the moment, I want to cover. So the new moon yesterday involved Pluto. We have a full moon on the 28th when everything's over. That will be at 9 Leo Aquarius. Now, the good news is that Jupiter is exactly conjunct that full moon. And Jupiter is blessings, good fortune. Yay. So I believe that Jupiter will step in and spread the waters and try to calm things out by the 28th. But, and Mars, as you see, will have cleared Uranus and kept moving. And Venus moves in with Pluto. And Venus and Jupiter are considered to be the blessing planets, the gracious planets. Mars and Saturn are considered to be the hardcore, no nonsense, fiery, get it done. So by the 28th, obviously, the energy has shifted greatly. Full moons always bring emotion. However, this moon's in Leo, and Leo's a fire sign, and it's not as emotional as some full moons are. The one December 30th was a real kicker because it was in Cancer. It's always the most, full moon in Cancer at the Christmas holiday sometime is always the most difficult one of the year because the moon rules Cancer and it's emotional. So that's that tune. Now, okay, so that's about right now. And so everybody's like, well, what's happening now? Well, but what happens for the year? What are we expecting? A big T-square. Yes, there is a big T-square in the chart, and you can see it. Oh, on this full moon, Annie, yes. Sun, Jupiter to the moon, to the Mars, Uranus. We have Mars, Uranus squaring all this Jupiter, Saturn, Sun. You see that big red line? Those are all squares. That's stress. So everybody in God's world is writing about the T-square and the stress and what's going on, and it's there. So we can feed into it or we can step back from it. And I suggest you step back from it. Now, let's pull back for just a moment and talk about the year, which people, So we understand this month, everybody's got a better picture that it could be a little volatile this month, keep your nose clean. Because there is a T-square, which is a stress aspect. You can see it. There is one other major T-square in this chart that the nodes are the nodes of the moon and they're a spiritual axis and they are squaring Neptune. They have, on the 28th, it's over. But if you go to the 13th or the 14th today, you will see that the nodes are at 19 and Neptune's at 18. Neptune's moving into the nodes. This is a very karmic spiritual call. So we will respond either to the Mars-Uranus square, Jupiter-Saturn, or we will respond to Neptune squaring the nodes and go on take the spiritual path. We have two different squares going on here, and so we have to decide which one we're going to choose. Neptune squaring the nodes is very interesting. Neptune was discovered in 1841, and it was in Aquarius. But the nodes were not there. So this is the first time that Neptune has gone into Pisces and squared the nodal axis out of Pisces, its own sign. So this indicates to me that we are trying to get to a new level of spiritual thinking. And everybody has to sort of try to participate, kick your feet, and help us get over the wave, because it's like we have a choice here. Are we going to take the Neptune high road or the escape, drugs, alcohol, escapism, sleep, undercover activity, whatever? Huh?
Binge watching.
Binge watching. Yeah. Neptune. Go into your fantasy world, Neptune. Margaret's over here on her phone. So participating in that. That was good, Margaret. So yes, but this is done by the 28th of January too. Neptune's been coming in for 2 months. What does that mean? We have been sitting on the verge of, are we going to take the spiritual high road? Are we going to go to Neptune and hide, drink, and go to sleep? How are we going to handle Neptune? And then we've got the Mars, Uranus square Jupiter, Saturn, and are we just going to go into stress and fight over structure? Now, January is tough. We're already there. Everybody's exhausted. Neptune tends to make one want to sleep. And so if you are particularly tired or sleepy, it's Neptune at work. Neptune's calling us to look within, rest, be quiet. So I suggest you go to bed a little earlier and slow it down a little bit. It'll be gone in a couple of weeks. That will have passed, but it's been going on for the last 2 months, wanting us to rest, slow down, and do our Neptune unconscious work. Okay. The other thing that is going on, that everybody knows about, remember that Uranus, now Mars moves fast, and once Mars hits Uranus and goes on, it doesn't remain. It's been a big player for the last 6 months, but Uranus is in a fixed sign now at 6. And Saturn is at 3. Saturn and Uranus, they're two outer planets. Saturn has a 29-year orbit. Uranus is 84 years. They are going to be squaring one another or challenging one another or blocking each other's energy over the next year. So I have a graph that I've done. Here it is. See if I can get it over here where you can see it. Blow it up as high as I can. So what have we got? I know, but this is the planet Saturn, and here's the planet Uranus, and they're going to be squaring. Now, many astrologers are talking about this time. Saturn is the planet of concrete, grounding, discipline, walls. Up until the 1700s, Saturn was our outer planet, and they considered it to be the boundary setter. So Saturn is like solid. It was our solid wall. It was the end of our system. Then Uranus came along in the 1700s, 1781, it was discovered. But Uranus was ruled electricity and chaos and breaking loose and rebellion and new energy and breaking through and all the words that progressive, but it's a break loose energy. And a very famous astrologer whom I adored, Isabel Hickey, called Uranus the Great Awakener. Now we have the father time, solid, follow the rules, challenging Uranus, the Great Awakener, the changer. So many people are saying, oh my, these two planets are going to be in from February and then in June and then in December. These planets are going to be squaring. We're going to be breaking old boundaries. We're going to be breaking through to new ground. There is no doubt about it. That's what it was meant to do. That's the deal. So, are we going to wig out? We could. Won't do you any good. It's still going to happen. So today, you can see it maybe more clearly. Here's Uranus at 6, Saturn's at 3. Saturn's going to come up to 11, go back. Uranus is going to, they're going to go back and forth and square each other 3 times this year, which means they are continuing to interact and work together. Saturn says, stand still, hold firm, don't give. Uranus says, you will change. Bango, bango, bango. So we've got 2 conflicting energies. So keep in mind, it will break through old walls. We are going to change, but there could be some rebellion in that. Try not to be part of the Uranian rebellion. You want to go with the new road, do it, but try to do it quietly. Graph again. Oh, I don't know if I can. Where is it? I don't know, Margaret. I've lost it. Wait a minute. I had it. Interesting. Well, I can do it again. I don't know what happened to it. There it is. Nope. It said timeline on it, is what it said. There it is. Okay, here it is. So what were the dates? All of February, starting with the 7th. These little lines are 7th through the 28th of February. Saturn will be exact on February 17th. That's what that says. Saturn square Uranus exactly. So you might want to write down and observe and walk, because the idea is we're watching the universe at work. Pretty fascinating. It's applying on the way in. It's stronger as it applies. So from the 10th to the 17th of February will be the stronger. Then in June, the 7th to the 14th of June will be the strongest. And then in December, the 18th to the 24th, 17th. Yeah, Merry Christmas. So, but now here's one more piece about that. When planets come together and then they move back and forth and shift. So when planets come back and forth together, and they shift, the first hit coming in, the first hit, which would be the Saturn-Uranus in February, will be when it declares itself. You be observing, and we're like, okay, what is Saturn-Uranus wanting us to do? If you can stand back and observe and say, what is the lesson of Saturn-Uranus? It'll be February that it declares itself. In June, it's check-in. How are you doing? There can be another eruption of Uranus. It says, you're not moving fast enough. And by December, it says, well, get a handle on this. I do not believe if I go into 2022, well, I lied. Saturn and Uranus will make a mild conjunction in September, October of 2022, but not really. They'll come close, but it's not the same. Jupiter-Neptune is a real spiritual energy, by the way, but that's in 2022. But so here is the tough part of the Saturn-Uranus. But this is the T-square, and Annie was talking about the T-square, and everybody's talking about the T-square. But they're like, what does this mean? So the reason I tended to want to bring in the United States, here's the United States with the inauguration. That Mars-Uranus you see is here in the 5th house of leadership. So, the leadership who may act. Now this Mars-Uranus conjunction, which tends to be a breaking loose or striking out, is going to exactly square our nodal axis in the U.S. chart. 6 Leo, 6 Aquarius. So it says a crossroads in Washington is what it says. The people there who are reacting are the ones who are going to set the pace for this. So, if you're feeling kind, you have time, write to your congressman, write to your senator, and say to them, you're there. Will you be a voice for reason during this time? And try to keep people calm as opposed to inciting more eruption. I suggest that all of you in your own personal space try to be a voice of calm and not an instigator of eruption. Mars, Uranus, square the nodes. Yes.
What about the Neptune opposition Neptune? Transiting Neptune opposition natal Neptune. It'll be in April.
Well, yeah, we are having Neptune opposed Neptune in our chart in the spring. The United States is getting ready to go through some very great transitions from our natal chart, birth chart, Pluto, the planet that takes 247 years, 24 and 48, Pluto in 2020, the late 22, early 23, Pluto's coming back to itself. We were going to have a Pluto return. Transformative, we have to transform, shift, and we've talked about that. It has to do with money, but it also has to do with our values. And yes, Neptune, transiting Neptune, 165 years, will be opposing itself in the U.S. chart in the spring. Neptune's interesting because Neptune is spirituality, Neptune is intuition, Neptune is drugs and alcohol, if on the lower lane, because it's all living in the imaginary world. So Neptune opposed Neptune, Neptune tends to cover things up because it's cloud and fog and mist. But when Neptune connects with Neptune, quite often it uncovers. So stay tuned in the spring. Enlightenment, but also uncovering of deception. And so come April, May, we shall see what Neptune has in store for us, because it's in the third house, and the third house is communication. And so there's going to be uncovered communication, and we're going to see it, and you're like, whoa, it stayed buried a long time. And we're going to see it coming out. So that's it. Thank you, Carrie. It exposes deception. When you get Neptune talking to Neptune, that's what you're going to get. And so on the U.S. chart, Mars-Uranus is going to square the nodes, and it's a choice. When you square the nodes, you're like, I'm at a crossroads. Am I going to do it the old way? Am I going to do it the new way? So let us hope that somebody stands up and does North Node in Leo, takes the leadership, So bottom line is this month is hard. We've got this Mars-Uranus tight coming in. It's going to be exact on Inauguration Day. They're cranking up for a battle. Try not to be part of it. It will die down. It will begin to dissolve come spring. I also think that COVID, as Mars, I do think that Mars is in Uranus, as they separate, that this firing. So yes, what is our call to action? Our call to action is to stand, try to be calm, encourage people that this is a time of transition. We are preparing to enter into a whole new age. And I promise you that all of us who are on the planet at this time chose to be here to be part of the journey. But each one of us has to hold up our end. And it's tough because people say things you don't like and people believe things you don't believe. And you have to try to be calm, and you have to try to, reasonably say, I disagree. Yes, Margaret. The moment of childbirth. Many, many people, of course, are saying the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction was at 0 Aquarius. And so some people said, well, are we in the Aquarian age? According to NASA, no. According to science, and it will not be until 2300, 2315, something like that. But we are on the way. It's a 2,100 year, time, and we're at the very last 100 years. So we're passing through between the two counties, if you would. We're journeying across there. We are leaving Pisces, and the way I have explained it, and I said it before, because that Jupiter-Saturn conjunction was at 0 Aquarius, the beginning of the new thing, and it's a 20-year cycle. I thought it was the heralder of new. So I'm like, we've been running at 51 degrees Pisces and 49 degrees Aquarius. That's what Pisces is, the shepherd and the sheep, and following whoever tells you and what you should do. Aquarius is individual decisions. That's where we're headed. Become your own internal messenger. Listen to your own. So I felt that the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction in December shifted it to 49 Pisces and 51 of Aquarius. I felt like we shifted one at the other degree. We're still moving. We are not, quote, into the age of Aquarius. However, I will tell you, it because Uranus and Aquarius rule technology. and you look at the way it's taking off, and we are becoming a digital society. And by the time Pluto comes back to transiting Pluto comes back to Pluto, we will be a totally digital society. Nobody has home phones anymore now, anyway, unless you're just looking for something. So that's my summation. If anybody's got any comments or questions, you're welcome. I do think when we get to spring, yes, things are going to get better. I do think COVID's going to back off come March, April. I do believe by the eclipses in May that Gemini, the eclipses are in Gemini, Sag, and they're much more malleable, flexible energy. And I think things are going to start to lighten up and give and not be so rigid. So I look for the end of May, June for really. I was talking to somebody today who was in New York and was wondering if they'd ever go, if they're going to go back. And I said, I think by summer they'll begin to do callbacks to New York. I do. Of course, it'll take the city a long time to get back to where it was, if it ever does. But what's happened in all this is that our consciousness has changed. Are you not more conscious when you go out? You think about your mask. You think about getting too close to people. You be careful what you touch. We are, as a planet, much more populated than we've ever been before. So I don't think we're going back to the old Piscean wish and dream consciousness. I don't think that's going to happen. I would love it. I'd like to live under that rock in dreamland, but it ain't going to happen. So we're back. We are moving into Aquarius, where knowledge and observation and standing back and observing is, what's going to be called for. So stand back, observe, and do the best you can, but try to stay calm. This month ain't pretty. I wish I could tell you that you're going to wake up tomorrow and this would all be fine, but don't turn on the news if that's what you want to hear. So, okay, any comments, questions in the room? We do have a room full of people here too. This session will be put on YouTube, under Pam Gallagher. Mindy will send it out, but you're welcome to listen to it. Diane Getz is sharing great wisdom. Thanks for sharing. Diane is a graduate of the school, has her own astrology practice now, and I think is doing quite well as far as I know. Haven't heard any complaints lately. Nora and Eve are typing, and we're so glad you were here. It's one of the gals in house. Thank you. One of the gals in house's daughter and granddaughter. So we're glad you're with us tonight. I don't do this too often because I don't. But then people start asking me, and you know who asked me the most? We really enjoyed this. The young people. See. I mean, those are her grandkids, and they're the ones that are asking, please, would you talk about what's coming so we understand? These kids want to be proactive and understand, and more power to them. Anything that I can give them to help them understand, I am all over it. So Annie Shabbat is typing. Annie's been in astrology forever. Not ever, you're not as old as me, but she's also a professor at, thanks. Well, come on down, Annie. We're here on Thursday night. We have 6 people tonight. We're in good stead. So God bless you all of you. Now, I'm going to turn the record.